Bismillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. We're now looking at lesson number 6. The author says, Ad-Darsu As-Sadis. Ad-Darsu As-Sadis. And this lesson is focusing on building or putting together what we've worked on previously. So he says, Tadribat, exercises or practicing, ala, upon, al-harakat, the harakat, which you should remember what those are, wa, and at-tanween, which was the previous lesson. So now there are two ways to read these boxes. So these boxes here, so we have one box here, one box here, one box here, one box here, like this. These boxes are made up of words. So what we're going to do is we're going to spell the boxes. And there's also a way to just read it without spelling. So I'm going to show you first the spelling, which is the way you're going to do it in class at first. And then after that, you're going to read it without spelling, inshallah ta'ala. So he says here, for example, if you look at the first box, we're going to break down each letter, okay? Like we have done with the vowel, short vowels, the harakat and the tanween. So the first one is, we're going to read the letter Hamza. What does the Hamza have? Fatha. Hamza, Fatha'a. So that's the first letter. Then we're going to look at the second letter. What's the letter? So we look at the letter first. Then the haraka. Ba, Fatha, Ba. And then we're going to put letter 1 and letter 2 together. Aba. And then we're going to look at the third letter here, which is a dal. And the dal has, what haraka or tanween does it have? It has fathatain. So we're going to say dal fathatain dan. So this was the third one. Dal fathatain dan. And then together, 1, 2, and 3 together. Abadan. Notice the pattern again. Abadan is not abadan, where there's no stretching. Abadan. So that's the first box done. Let's look at the second box now. Again, we're going to see that it has 3 parts, yeah? The letter, and then the haraka, or the tanween. So here we have the letter Hamza. Remember that Hamza, this letter here, the Hamza here, sits on an alif sometimes. Sometimes it sits on a waw, sometimes it sits on a ya. We learnt that in lesson 2. So don't get confused. Just remember that it's a Hamza. So Hamza, and what does it have? It has a fatha on top. So number 1, the first letter, Hamza, fatha'a. What's the second letter? Ha, fatha, ha. So we look at the letter here, and then we look at the haraka, which is a fatha. So we say again, ha, fatha, ha. And then we put 1 and 2 together, aha, aha. And then the third one, let's look at the letter, and then we look at the haraka or the tanween. And so we say dal dammatain dun. So that's the third one. Put it all together. Ahadun, ahadun. So we've said that box now. So let's go to the next box. So we see that it has 3 again. So let's go to number 1. We look at the letter first, and then the haraka. Hamza, fatha'a. Second letter. Kha, fatha, kha. So we looked at the letter, then the haraka. And then we put number 1 and 2 together. Akha. Then the third. Dhal. That's the letter. Then the haraka. Fatha. Dhal, fatha, dha. Akhadha. Listen carefully. Akhadha. Then we look at the next box. The next box as well has 3 letters. Let's look at the first one. Look at the letter and then the haraka. In this case, the haraka is a fatha. Hamza, fatha'a. Number 1. Next letter here. And the haraka, which is a kasra. Because it's underneath, we know it's a kasra. Dhal, kasra, dhi. And then we put number 1 and number 2 together. Adhi. Then the last letter, we look at the letter and then we look at the haraka. This is number 3. Noon, fathana. And then we put them together, 1, 2, and 3. Adhina. Careful not to say adhina. No, there's nothing to stretch the V. So short and precise. Adhina, adhina. Okay, next box. We see that there are 3 letters here as well. So number 1, we look at the letter and the haraka. So the letter here, and then the haraka here. Hamza fatha'a. Number 2, look at the letter and the haraka. Mim fatha ma. Then number 1 and 2 together. Ama. Then number 3. Let's look at the letter and then the haraka. Ra fatha ra. Amara. We put them 3 together. Good. Okay, the last box of the first line. And it has something new for you here. It has 3 letters, but here there's a letter with a type of symbol on it that you haven't seen before. So we'll explain that when we get to it, inshallah. So number 1, what's the letter? And what is this haraka? We should know it. Hamza fatha'a. Then number 2, the letter, and then the haraka. Noon fathana. Then together, 1 and 2. Ana. And then this here is an alif. Here is an alif. But what does this sign mean? This sign means that we're not going to pronounce it. There's more detail to that. Basically, if you're going to carry on, you don't pronounce it. If you're going to stop, you're going to pronounce it. But for us now, we don't worry about it. So we just say ana, or some teachers will say ana. Don't worry about it now. But the main thing that you need to know, the first 2. And likewise, then you go through the rest of them. So let's just read the first line again together, or the first couple of boxes. Here, Hamza fatha'a, ba fatha ba, aba, dal fathatain dan, abadan. Hamza fatha'a, ha fatha ha, aha. دال ضمتين دن أحد. Third box. همزة فتحة خا فتحة خا أخا. ذال فتحة ذا أخذ. Fourth box, sorry. همزة فتحة ذال كسرة ذي أذي. نون فتحانا أذينا, and so forth. So there's going to be some parts here that may be a bit difficult. Don't worry too much about them. As you go, you get to grips with them, but at least you know the pattern, and make sure that you don't stretch any parts. So for example, there are sometimes people like here, ja'ala, ja'ala. Don't say ja'ala or ja'ala. No, don't stretch. Pay attention to make sure that you don't stretch certain parts. Just mention them as you mentioned them in the previous lessons. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy and grant us all success.